If we will, let's go ahead and start this first slide, if you don't mind, Stephen, and I'll roll it from there. Pastor Shirley, thank you this morning for the great confirmation. Sick of it. That's what we're going to talk about this morning. The pun was intended. We have a lot of people that's been sick. I'm over it. I know you're over it. If it's not COVID, the door swings open with the flu, sinuses, cancer, fatigue, car accidents. It's all happening within our church right now, right? And Haley, by the way, we are praying for you, and we are so glad you're home. Yes. So let's take it a step further. What about job loss or family crisis or mental health and exhaustion, loneliness, debt, your grocery bills? Each of us can reflect immediately on what has disoriented or maybe what has us even at a standstill, discouraged being at the forefront. And honestly, this is kind of where it sets right here. Hasn't this been the past 2 years? What? That's how I feel, right? So today, I hope to instill some motive for each of us to just take a close look at what is impacting our lives, and let's analyze the scenarios, and then let's let it go, right? If there's anything that I've learned from my parents that's stuck with me, is that as followers, as believers, we must learn to toughen up, to keep moving, to not wallow in something for too long, and more than anything, take it a day at a time and see Him work through it all. If I'm ever in complaint mode or just whining to my dad or talking to him about something that's overwhelming, he was like, son, you're just going to have to take it a day at a time. Sometimes we have to take it hour by hour, even minute by minute. But there's always the sun lies ahead, I promise, especially if you're allowing God to be involved. These struggles are a testing of our faith. So, for example, Peter walking on the water. God could have calmed the storm. We know that, right? Hands down, like a boss, settled the storm. He could have thrown the sun out, traipsed across the sea with a pitcher of ice lemonade in his hand, kicked back, and talked about the catch of the day with the boys. God could have done it. But that's not what he had in mind. Faith was tested, and Peter's steps out of the boat, right in the middle of the storm, mind you, and walks toward Jesus on the water. Now, many of us immediately think about the fact that Peter sinks, O ye of little faith, right? But Peter stepped out. See, I think this is where we fall short. We either know a possibility of failure could occur or have failed and retreated. So why do we as humans default to the negative so easily? You know, Peter learned a valuable lesson that day. Even though his foot surfing was brief, he still had faith. The more we tap into our faith system, the grander the possibilities of God proving just who He said He was all along. Peter caught a glimpse of that. So I have a few questions for us today. And mind you, I always preface this when I speak. This is not a targeted sermon. If it's targeted at anybody, it's targeted at myself. Okay, I'm an authentic individual, and I probably overshare too much, but this is what God's dealing me with, and so I just feel impressed that we should talk amongst ourselves together about what's happening right now. So, how did I get here? Am I the issue? What I really know is I'm sick of it. How did I get here? So, let's look at some random how did I get here scenarios. All right. Let's just take a gander at this. When you run out of room, people, just soak it in. It's almost scary this could be considered a talent, truly. I mean, how does this happen? I mean, we know logistically how it's happened, but how, people? Dad has always told me, this is my motto, my family has heard it 1,000 times. If you take out what you've put in for the day, you'll never have a cluttered vehicle. You know, it's said that the way you keep your car reflects your home and your soul. So just think on that. Think on that for a moment. Can we just also take a look at this Pringles can that is duct taped to the top of the car? My question is, has the individual moved their exhaust system to the front, potentially? And I don't know. I don't know. A lot's happening with this car. All right, well, let's look at this collage of greatness here. Oh, God. How about the size of that purse? Would you just look at it? I'm not going to look out in the audience right now, even though I just asked you, would you look at it? But I am sure there are a few ladies in this church who could fill that purse easily. Easily. What in someone's mind made them think, let's create a purse that looks like a tent that I should carry? I mean, obviously they had a ton of things in their purse, so this is what they felt met their need. Let's look at the croc heel there at the top, your top right. People, this is a literal collaboration with Balenciaga. This is a high-end shoe. I'm not lying. This you can get for an easy price of $625 plus. So all you croc lovers, what about the truck? Listen, my first thought is, I feel like we would probably have to call the Poto Fire Department and use their ladder truck to climb in. That's the first thing that comes to mind. But then let's also look at what the meme says. It says, this is what you look like when you skip leg day. This is what you look like. Now, as we all know, I'm an avid gym rat, and I work really hard to not have chicken legs, as you can tell today with these slender pants here. Let's make this a little more personal. All right. There we go. Now, hold up. Like, you laugh first, but this was an achievement. I mean, we're talking like I had just gotten my license just a couple of years ago. So, you know, can we talk about the spider legs climbing down my forehead? Let's just look at that. Would you look at it? If you know, you know. Boy, you could just grease that up and just slide it over. Okay. But seriously, with all of these examples, it had to start somewhere, right? Someone picked a piece of rubber off the road and Crocs popped into their head, right? Apparently there's a lot of Crocs lovers in here. Oh, some designer's purse was overflowing and they knew they needed a purse with certainty that would never overfill. And well, my gelled spider bangs, they eventually evolved to the greatness you see today, right? No coveting, people, no coveting. Joking aside, how did I get here? So let's reflect when it all began. The hard times. You see, many times we haven't asked for them, and the trials, they just come. I think what I would like us to freshen our thoughts on is how we've managed the trial. I think that many times that when the trials come, have we self-managed them? Maybe, mostly. Maybe you feel your need isn't big enough to go to him with. So we start playing the comparison game because so-and-so has it way worse, so we decline his help. So anger issues. Where did it begin? How did it start? Excuses. They come easy for you. Always allocating room to ease your way out of things. I just love that. When you text somebody like, hey, we're planning on doing this, and it's always an open-ended answer. People, I'm a firm believer in just saying yes or no. Like, you don't have to beat around the bush, but those open-endeds are just great. Lust. See, some of you, yeah, you're still sitting there in great lust over the Balenciaga Crocs. That God will deliver you, and there's an altar space down here for you. The inability to express your inner thoughts. Men, we lack here the most, especially when battling any form of mental health specifics. Forgiveness. Your tongue moves too much. You gossip too much. Healthline says that it takes anywhere from 18 to 254 days to create a habit. 18 days or 254, we are spending too much time grooming our downfalls. We can't take the extra 2 minutes or less to grab the can of Coke we have in our vehicle because we're just too busy. But we scroll through TikTok's rabbit hole, and an hour passes without thought given. We won't even dive into the parallels this applies to our God intake on the daily. I stand here flawed. Many of you know I've grown up with you. And many things I've justified, and I'm sure that I'll add more to my list in my lifetime. But can we just keep it real? Because of our neglect, we are living in a world that is so far gone, we are now scrambling in anger, pointing fingers at who's to blame when much of it, the blame is on us. So here's a couple of examples. Would you pray for my child? They've moved off and haven't gone to church. They're even saying things that are unbiblically based. Now, hold up. This is a good prayer request. So I want to make that known here. This is an open space, a safe space for those needs. But what I want us to kind of think about when we're asking for these needs, when we're talking about a specific need, when we may be whining or complaining, here's a thought. Something to ponder. Could it be that a Sunday morning occasional attendance may be structuring your child's future with minimal thought about consistency in Christ and His Word? See, we're willing to invest thousands of dollars in a musical instrument, sport uniforms, put hundreds of miles and hours on a vehicle for them, Letterman jackets, prom dresses that cost as much as a wedding gown. You get it, right? But it's almost like eternity has become an afterthought. When our time comes, whenever it may be, we will be judged. And there won't be a tote full of investments that I just mentioned sitting beside you. Your child, you, will stand before God the Father and give account for your soul. Let me tag on here one more thing. When it came down to spiritual growth or various activities, I always knew the answer. A precedence was made in our home, and it never wavered. My parents were consistent. Now, it wasn't easy. There were things I had to say no to because I knew there was a greatest purpose for my life. It was hard, but what I will tell you is that God makes up for it big. There were moments where I had to say no to a specific musical event or other things. But then who would have thought, and this isn't bragging, but it's more bragging on God, who would have thought that 4 or 5 years after graduating high school that I got to sing alongside Carrie Underwood? Right? But unfortunately, sometimes we have to make a sacrifice. And parents, this is the time to do it. We live in a world where all these activities, whether it be sports, whether it be music, whatever, are literally taking up hours and hours and hours a week of our lives. And yet we attend a 45-minute service on a Sunday morning. Where are our priorities? I know that I harp on this topic often, especially when we're talking about teenagers and young children, and probably because I've had the honor of helping parent just a smidgen, a young man in my home over the past couple of years. But have you looked at our nation's youth? Ask a teacher. Get on TikTok for a day. They need us more than ever before. So we're still talking about some examples, and I'm just going to go right at myself here. So here we go. We're just going to lay it all out. I personally have gained 25 pounds since last May. I have. I have blood pressure issues. I really do. And sometimes my sugar will bottom out. But I keep buying the Flamin' Ranch Doritos and enjoying the harvest while binging a TV show. See, it's easy. It's easy to make assumptions and point a finger when it doesn't involve us. So we can get passionate about saying, Brent played baseball all of his life, and that's all he does. We can start pointing fingers, but here I am, 25 pounds overweight. The word of the Lord does talk about some of these specifics, right? But it's easy to point a finger and to cast judgment. So, but can we just talk about the doctor's scales for a second? People, I feel like in some way they've just ticked those up. Like you stand there and the nurse is like she just keeps, and you're, oh God, just Lord, and she just keeps moving it. Oh, no, we're going to have to move the bottom one now. And, what on earth? How did I get here? How did I get here? What? Oh, just had to show that again. Am I the issue? This is Thunder, everybody. He'll be 9 this year. So, anyway, he smells terrible. So, personal reflection isn't easy. In fact, many times when we attempt, we become overwhelmed and we pull back. For instance, my weight gain. I attempt to cut out the nightly peanut butter or teaspoon of ice cream. But the headache is unreal. And fighting through isn't worth it. Have you seen, literally, this is true, have you seen the comparison of the brain affected by hard drugs and sugar? It's disgusting. So I went to my refrigerator and pulled out every piece of pie, Crustables, and ate them. It was my last night to have it, y'all. If I'm being honest, there's no one harder on me than me. I'm sure the same goes for you. My wife can brag on me, and somehow within her words, I find a way to receive it as a sympathy statement. And we wonder why we view Jesus so skewed. Brent, if you knew that Huck was headed towards being insulin dependent, we're not speaking this into existence, people. Don't go there. This is just a hypothesis. Would you just keep allowing Brahms Sundays, or would you do everything in your power to reverse what was happening to his body? Of course, we know the answer. He and Mandy would strategize and work to create a healthy environment for their boy. It's just common sense, right? But my Father in heaven doesn't see me that way. He isn't strategizing for my breakthrough. He's okay with me failing. No way. We know this. We know this answer. Yet we treat him as if he is that kind of father. So a unique story has made the news recently because a new series has chronicled it. And if you've read about this story, it's quite the intrigue. Does anybody know who this is at all? All two of you. Okay. Anna Delvey. She was an immigrant with a dream. She wanted to be a successful businesswoman, and her dream led to one of the greatest scams of our generation. Acting as if she was an heiress with millions, she conned bankers, hotels, friends. The list is unfathomable, but she did it. Her illusions worked. She worked her way into the elite of New York with $0 to her name, all by saying that she had a father that was out of the country that had the money to back what she was asking for. What was so intriguing and captivating is honestly where she got it right was the confidence when she walked into a room. She looked the part, she talked the part, and she made people want to be her friend. And because of this, the cons took place. Now, there's some positives that I say that we could take away from this story, oddly enough. She invested in her dream, a skewed, selfish one, but she invested, and her confidence took her far. See, there are many in this room right now that have dreamed of things for years, but you're still sitting on it. Maybe it's just a matter of you taking a step, then God will step in. And I really want to speak into your dreams right now. There are people, like I said, in this room that have dreamed of you really, when I said that, something specific came to your mind. Jump out. Do it. Allow God to work through that with you, all right? All the cons caught up with Anna. She had an answer for the things she did. And we can play naive all we want, but the sowing and reaping moments always come. See, her disillusions were beyond fascinating. It was almost frightening. Her need for fame to be accepted couldn't speak more to where the state of our youth is right now. The unwillingness to work for what you want is becoming less valuable, and the instant factor is the value. See, quick cash businesses are at our fingertips. Just drive down Broadway. Ship to home has changed the value of a mall. Listen, malls are almost dead. Keeping up with the Joneses couldn't be more relevant. Max credit cards, Klarna, PayPal, Affirm, buy now, pay in full. The next scratch off, I know I'm going to win. If you do, we will accept your tithe. Listen, although some of what I've mentioned isn't harmful, they all have something in common. Convenience to the consumer, quick and easy. It's sad, but I think many of us, myself included, have a distorted same kind of thought base about Christ himself. If his response didn't work in my favor, my convenience, on to the next, I'll just let the Bible get dusty for a bit as punishment, instead of accepting the responsibility. Side note, Anna Delvey Sorokin is her real last name, never owned up to her responsibility, but the judicial system did that for her. God, we've yet to see our promised child come. So for this week, I'm going to focus more on how I can strategize my way of making this dream come about. Strategy and dream focus isn't bad at all, but if you're working at it without his approval, you're only producing an interpretation of his real thing. Or God has placed you where you are. He has enabled dreams you've imagined could never come true, but you're still holding out on the 10% owed to him. Understand, this dream will always be deficient and unstable. Would you want someone to rob you of your dream? His dream was to see you succeed, yet you rob him with ease. Daily, he isn't a priority in the monetary that makes your dream come alive. Am I the issue? Am I the issue? Go ahead. This scene is a hilarious scene in Diary of a Mad Black Woman, and she's basically making it known that everything in the house is half of hers. So she's cutting through a couch there. I'm sick of it. Shirley said this over and over this morning. Whether any of the things I've discussed have hit home or not, there are some real battles going on right now. We are more politically divided. Marriage is having less value. Teen suicide at its greatest. Debt piled up. Illnesses wreaking havoc. Face-to-face conversations a part of the old age. Inflation having its biggest hike in years. The struggle's real. It really is. I'm probably going to sound like a broken record, but when I was at one of my lowest moments, this scripture was spoken over me, and I feel it couldn't fit for a better time. Look, I go forward, but he is not there. And backward, but I cannot perceive him. When he works on the left hand, I cannot behold him. When he turns to the right hand, I cannot see him. But he knows the way that I take. And when he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. Job's story, it's pretty incredible. This man went through it. Through it. But his faithfulness prevailed. God restored what was taken from him and more. Church family, our willingness to be faithful is so important. It really is. It pays off. Listen, his track record is Bible. Literally. God's track record is Bible. As we've been evaluating during these past few minutes, it's my hope that there has been a form of revelation where you feel you need to ramp up an area of faithfulness in your life. Listen, I know I have. God's taken me to the woodshed a few times this weekend. See, C.S. Lewis states, what saves a man is to take a step, then another step. Are you taking any steps? Listen, let's give Peter some props here. The man took some steps. A valuable lesson was learned in the moment for him. Was Peter a saint? No way. He would later deny Christ not once, but 3 times. But Christ's love still prevailed for Peter, even after his denial. So can we quit being so hard on ourselves? Can we look at the Father with a childlike heart? You know, the childlike moments where dad can do no wrong. He is a consistent one, your hero, full of love, some woodshed moments, but still your hero. He wants to walk alongside you, alongside our hardships. He wants to be in the operating room with you. And he wants to be with you even when you walk into Walmart. He cares about every detail, every single one. Can we pull up our bootstraps and get to work? Can we fight this out? If I'm being honest, I'm sick of it. Are you? Are you sick of it? If we will, go ahead and let's lower the lights and just put on a little bit of music. And if we'll stand together. There's been some funnies throughout this sermon today, and even examples. And more than anything, I don't want you to feel like I'm making light of anything, of any form of situation, or even pointing a finger. In fact, this solely was wrote for myself, but I knew that I had to share it today. God loves us so big, and He wants to see us succeed. But Covenant, it is time that we start doing our part. It's time that we start walking with grit. It's time that we literally live out the words, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. And sometimes that means just pushing through. Sometimes that means making yourself available when you don't feel like it. Sometimes that means coming to church a Sunday night, and a Wednesday night, even though you feel that you could be doing something else. But you also oversee a household, men, that you are the leader of. And when we stand before God, we answer for our soul and the 15 that follow behind us. And the first few is our family. I'm sick of it. People play in church. Teens not even having a clue who Jesus is. For one, because we don't show him. And two, it's just, watch the shows that are going on, that are on television now. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Kids using Snapchat and all these things where a message will fade away, but they'll blast people, friends, talk nasty about them, send videos, save videos, share it with others. Parents, pay attention. Pay attention. Also, parents, you can contact Snapchat and get those documents if needed. Just an FYI. All I'm saying is, y'all, we've got to start getting sick of some things. I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but I watched Janet Jackson documentary, and of course, she's an R&B legend. I love music, so it was something that my wife and I watched. But listen, that woman's career was halted overnight because of something that happened at a Super Bowl. But now, we have someone singing WAP on national television that is just an easy watch now. Literally thousands and thousands and thousands of believers called in on that Super Bowl show, and CBS was fined. Janet Jackson's career was brought to a halt. No more repercussions are being shown. This is what our kids are seeing. So they just act and do as they please because it's not there. It's not present. Parents aren't taking responsibility. Y'all, let's get sick of it. But let it start here first. Let it start here first. Dad in the home, if it starts with you, I promise your family will follow. Mother, single mother in the room, I am sorry that there is not a man that is represented in your home, but I know a man who can be that for your child. And you just keep digging, you just keep coming. Y'all, we're at the end of it. He's coming back. The signs are present. I've heard it ever since I was a kid, but y'all, they are more present today than they've ever been. Look at the inflation. Look at it. Let's bow our heads for a moment. I want to pray, and then I have a couple of questions I want to ask. God, you are so worthy. God, I ask that the things that have come out of my mouth this morning, God, that they be solely from you, God. If there is something that I've said, God, that wasn't of you, I pray, God, that you retract those things in people's minds. But God, that we focus on what you are trying to speak to us this morning, God. We are sick of it. We are sick of having a church that has been infiltrated with illness, with cancer, with all sorts of situations, God. We are sick of it. And God, we call it done in your name. In your name. Here's some questions. Are you battling something and you're sick of it? This altar space is for you. Are you neglecting Christ in areas you know you need to up the ante? This altar space is for you. Do you have a loved one that is battling an illness, needs salvation, and you're sick of seeing the enemy steal from them? This altar space is for you. You've taken advantage of God, what He's given you. You understand that what you have, it's all from Him. Let me repeat that. Everything that we have today is all from Him. Is all from Him. This altar space is for you. Most importantly, you've never accepted Christ as your Savior, or you know within it's time for a recommitment. This altar space is for you, and I will be glad to pray with you. There are many in this room that will be glad to pray with you. Many. Can we cut past the monotonous of worrying about our ego and what others may think, and let's surrender to the Father? It's time to be sick of it. It's time to be sick of it. Y'all, I've thrown out a lot of scenarios, and honestly, I think something within those questions can fit for you. My challenge for you this morning is to get down here in these altars and take some time and spend it with the Father. I promise you, there is nothing more than what God can do in your life. He is a peace that passes all understanding. He is our provider. He is our healer. And if you rely on Him, you won't miss it. You won't miss it. You'll get it right every time. The altar space is open. Come on, people. Let's move. Come on. This is for us this morning. It's not about Aaron this morning, but it's for him. It's for his glory.